Men may forget what you say or what you do, but they will never forget how you make them feel. If you truly understood this, attraction would not feel so confusing anymore, because the real truth is that emotional impact matters far more than anything else when it comes to pulling a man in. It is not about having perfect looks, expensive clothes, or pretending to be distant like you are playing some kind of game. It is something much deeper and simpler, and it comes down to 3 words. These 3 words can change how a man sees you, how he thinks about you when you are not around, and how strongly he feels drawn toward you. And no, it is not, "I miss you." It is not, "You are so hot." And it is not anything needy or forced. Stay with me, because once you understand this, the way men respond to you will completely shift. Have you ever noticed how 2 women can enter the same room and yet create completely different reactions? One looks perfectly put together, flawless styling, every detail carefully done, almost like she stepped out of a social media feed. The other is attractive as well, but nothing overly dramatic on the surface, yet somehow the attention naturally moves toward her instead. Men tend to laugh more easily with her, they open up without hesitation, they stay longer in conversation, and they feel relaxed around her presence. Meanwhile, the perfectly polished woman is often left questioning why real connection is not happening despite all her effort. This is because attraction is not created by appearance alone. It is driven by emotional energy and the way someone feels in your presence. Attraction always begins in the emotional space long before anything physical matters. The way a man feels around you becomes the base of how connected he remains. When he feels pressure, judgment, or like he is constantly being evaluated, he slowly starts to pull away, even if physical attraction is there. But when he feels calm, accepted, and free to be himself, he naturally moves closer without forcing it. That is why some connections grow easily while others fall apart without a clear reason. Men do not stay in environments where they feel judged or constantly tested. They stay where their emotional experience feels safe, real, and where they are not always trying to prove themselves. That is the core of attraction dynamics that most people overlook. They don't stay where they feel like they are constantly being judged or measured. They stay where they feel at ease. The reality is, most men spend their entire lives under pressure to prove themselves in one way or another. At work, they are expected to perform. In society, they are expected to succeed. In relationships, they are expected to be strong, stable, confident, and always enough. Strong enough, smart enough, successful enough, man enough. But instead of receiving appreciation for that effort, what they often experience is pressure, criticism disguised as advice, or expectations that keep rising no matter how much they give. So when a man encounters a woman who makes him feel calm, respected, and emotionally unthreatened, something shifts inside him. His mind registers it instantly as something different. And that different feeling is powerful. It stands out, it stays in memory, it creates curiosity and emotional pull. Because in a world full of pressure, anything that feels peaceful becomes naturally attractive without effort. And this is where most women unintentionally miss the point. Let me ask you honestly, when you are speaking to a man you like, are you paying attention to how he feels in that moment? Or are you mostly focused on how you feel and what you want to express? A lot of conversations turn into emotional release, venting, explaining, reacting, and filling silence without considering the emotional impact on the other person. And then there is confusion when he slowly becomes distant. What most people are never taught is this: men may not express emotions as openly as women, but they feel them very deeply. A man can tolerate a lot, but only up to the point where he starts feeling emotionally drained. If the way you speak makes him feel like he is constantly failing, never measuring up, or always falling short, he won't necessarily argue or explain himself. He will simply withdraw emotionally. On the other hand, if your words make him feel capable, respected, and appreciated, he naturally leans in closer, not because he is being chased, but because his nervous system associates your presence with comfort. And this is the irony most people miss. Attraction is not built through more talking, more explaining, or more effort. It is built through emotional precision, through knowing what kind of emotional impact your presence creates, because words are not just sounds, they carry weight, they stay. They replay in the mind long after the conversation is over. Everyone remembers certain sentences from years ago, whether they were painful or kind, and men are no different. They may not say it openly, but they remember exactly how someone made them feel. That is why women who understand this don't speak more, they speak with intention. They don't overwhelm with emotion, they don't lecture, and they don't turn every interaction into pressure. Instead, they create a sense of ease. And in a world where most people are mentally exhausted and emotionally overstimulated, that kind of energy stands out more than anything else. When a woman communicates in a calm, grounded, and emotionally steady way, it creates a pull that is difficult to explain but easy to feel. And this is where everything starts to shift, because in the next part, we move into the real trigger point, the 3 words that activate a deeper psychological response in a man and separate casual attention from real emotional attachment. But before getting to that, there's one more piece that needs to be understood first, and that's confidence. Not the loud, performative kind that tries to dominate a room, not the forced "I don't need anyone" attitude that sounds strong on the outside but often feels tense underneath. The real kind is much quieter. It doesn't push for attention, it simply holds its space and lets people notice it naturally. That's the kind of confidence that actually changes how others respond to you. You've probably seen it before. A woman walks into a room without trying to prove anything. She isn't scanning for validation, she isn't adjusting herself to fit in, she's just present, grounded, comfortable in her own skin. And people feel that immediately, especially men, because confidence isn't really about appearance, it's about emotional security within yourself. It's the feeling that you don't need to be validated to be okay. And men, more than anything, respond to presence. They don't fall for perfection, they fall for emotional steadiness. They don't stay drawn to someone who constantly seeks reassurance or approval. They are pulled towards someone who feels internally balanced. And here's something most people overlook. Your words often reveal your confidence long before your appearance ever does. A woman can be physically attractive, but if her communication feels anxious, defensive, or overly needy, the attraction starts to fade. On the other hand, someone who speaks with calmness, clarity, and emotional ease naturally creates a stronger impact, even if she says very little. That kind of energy makes a man feel respected instead of evaluated, understood instead of pressured, and that feeling is what makes someone memorable. And now we reach the moment you've been waiting for, the 3 words that shift everything. No build-up, no mystery, just clarity. The words are, "I appreciate you." And yes, that might sound too simple, almost underwhelming at first. That reaction is exactly why it works, because most women don't say it enough. Many assume it goes without saying. Others think expressing it might make them seem too soft or too obvious. But the truth is very different. Men rarely hear genuine appreciation. They are expected to provide, to stay strong, to solve problems, to keep going no matter what. And when they do all of that, it often goes unnoticed. No acknowledgement, no recognition, just a shift to the next expectation. So when a woman looks at a man and sincerely says, "I appreciate you," it lands deeper than most people realize. It communicates something simple but powerful. I see your effort. I value what you do. You are not invisible here. And for many men, that kind of acknowledgement is rare. That is why these words don't just sit on the surface. They go deeper. They change how a man feels in that moment. And that feeling is what creates difference. And in attraction, difference is what makes someone unforgettable. This isn't about tricks or manipulation. It's about understanding human psychology and emotional response at a basic level. A man's attraction is closely connected to his sense of impact. He wants to feel that what he does actually matters, that his presence adds value, and that he is not just occupying space but contributing something meaningful. When you say, "I appreciate you," you are directly speaking to that need. In that moment, his mind begins to associate you with comfort, recognition, and emotional ease. And the human brain naturally moves toward what feels rewarding and safe. That is why he may start thinking about you more often, why he feels more relaxed in your presence, and why his desire to stay connected can quietly increase. Not because you forced anything, but because the emotional experience around you feels good and natural. But this only works when it is genuine. It cannot be used mechanically or said without feeling. It is not a phrase to repeat casually or throw in as a quick response. It needs sincerity behind it. When you say it, it should come with presence, eye contact, a calm tone, and real intention. "I appreciate you," not as a tactic, not as a way to get a reaction, but as an honest reflection of what you notice in him. Men can sense the difference immediately. Empty words feel transactional, but real appreciation feels rare, and rarity is what makes it powerful. Timing also matters more than people realize. This is not something to be overused or repeated constantly. It carries weight when it is said in moments where he has shown effort, care, attention, or consistency. It could be after he supports you, listens to you, remembers something important, or simply shows up in a thoughtful way. It doesn't need to be a big dramatic gesture. Often, the small moments are the ones that matter most, and after you say it, you don't need to fill the space with more explanation. Let it settle. Silence allows the message to sink in fully, and that is where its impact grows. This is also why men tend to move toward women who make them feel emotionally good without games or pressure. They are not chasing distance or confusion, they are drawn to how they feel around you. When a man associates you with appreciation and emotional ease, he naturally wants more of that experience. Not because he is being chased or tested, but because being around you feels steady and positive. Over time, that can lead to more effort, better communication, and stronger consistency, not through demand, but through emotional influence. Try applying it in real situations. The next time you are speaking to someone you genuinely care about, slow down and actually observe them. Notice something real they do, even something small, and simply say, "I appreciate you." Then stop. Don't over-explain it. Don't add extra words to fill the space. Just let it land. Pay attention to how the energy changes naturally when someone feels genuinely seen. That shift is not random. It is emotional recognition taking effect. When used sincerely and at the right moments, this simple expression changes how you are experienced in relationships. It replaces pressure with warmth and effort with connection. And in the end, people rarely remember every detail of what was said, but they always remember how they felt in your presence. What's really happening underneath all of this is not magic words or some hidden trick. It's basic emotional conditioning and human attention patterns. People don't just respond to what is said, they respond to what they feel in their body while it is being said. When someone feels seen, acknowledged, and emotionally safe in your presence, their nervous system starts to relax. And when the nervous system relaxes, the mind naturally starts associating that person with relief instead of stress. That association is what slowly builds attachment over time. For men especially, this can be amplified because many of them are used to operating in performance mode. Work, responsibilities, expectations, competition, all of it trains them to stay alert, guarded, and outcome-focused. So when they enter a space where they are not being measured or corrected, but simply acknowledged as they are, it feels different from their usual environment. That difference is what creates emotional contrast. And the brain always pays attention to contrast more than routine. But what most people misunderstand is that appreciation alone is not the trigger. It is the combination of tone, timing, and emotional authenticity. A flat or repetitive "I appreciate you" means very little. But when it comes after genuine observation, like noticing effort, patience, consistency, or even small acts of care, it becomes specific. And specificity is what makes it feel real instead of generic. The brain is constantly filtering for sincerity, and it easily detects when words are used as strategy versus when they are rooted in actual perception. Another layer is that appreciation changes the dynamic of interaction. Without realizing it, many conversations become about correction, explanation, or emotional processing. That can create subtle pressure, even if no one intends it. When appreciation enters the dynamic, it balances that pressure with recognition. It tells the other person, your effort is landing. It is not invisible. That reduces internal resistance, which is why people often become more open, more engaged, and more responsive afterward. But there is also an important boundary here that often gets ignored. Emotional impact should never be treated like a control mechanism. If the intention shifts into trying to make someone chase, it stops working in a natural way because the behavior becomes calculated instead of present. Real connection weakens when communication becomes performance. What actually builds lasting attraction is consistency in emotional tone, being someone who is steady, aware, and grounded rather than reactive or unpredictable. And something else that plays a big role is self-regulation. The most impactful communication doesn't come from trying harder to say the right thing, but from not speaking from emotional overload. When someone is anxious, frustrated, or seeking reassurance, it tends to come through in their words, even if the sentence sounds fine on the surface. People don't just hear language, they sense emotional state. That's why calm communication often feels more powerful than intense communication. Over time, what really creates strong emotional pull is not one phrase, but the pattern of how someone feels around you repeatedly. If every interaction carries pressure, evaluation, or emotional weight, distance naturally forms. If interactions feel balanced, respectful, and emotionally light, closeness forms. Words like "I appreciate you" simply work because they reinforce that sense of ease when used honestly, not because they override deeper relationship dynamics. In the end, the deeper truth is that people don't bond with perfection, they bond with emotional experience. And the experiences that stay in memory are the ones where someone felt understood without needing to defend themselves or prove anything.